Hello, I'm joined by Brizer, and we're just going to have an easygoing chat about various subjects. How are you, Brizer?
I'm doing well, betwixt and yourself.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like yourself, I'm, getting through this muggy weather. It's
hmm
it saps the energy out of you, but
Yeah, it is. We, at long last, summer has arrived in Ireland, and we've had great weather for the last couple of weeks. And now it's turned very muggy and a little bit of rain today, but it's summertime, so I like it this time of year. I have to say, um, it's it just get over a kind of a long winter, and it's just it's nice to get outside and do things. So yeah, it's good.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
So, Brizer, I saw on Twitter a few days ago people were starting to talk about these digital, I don't know, vaccine or health passports,
hmm
and the usual suspects, the WHO and the EU were in cahoots. They were going to, they're going to bring this forth, and people will have to suck it up. What do you make of it? Is it going to happen? What do you think?
Um, well, I think like the digital ID, I think certainly is on the cards. Um, how they're going to bring it about, I'm not quite sure, because I don't think most people are ready for that type of thing. But if people are uh, have to are forced into a situation, they probably will go along with it. All they need is some kind of an excuse to bring it in. And actually, I think they have a very good one. I think you you did a little video on it about that stabbing in France there the other day. And I mean, again, whether it's real or not, I don't know. It was a very odd thing. I watched the video and it was very strange what was going on there. Now, I'm not saying whether it happened or whether it didn't happen or whatever. I don't know. But it's a very good excuse to say, right, we need to keep the people safe now. So we need to get on a digital ID so we can track all these immigrants that are coming in. But not only track the immigrants, but we're going to track you as well. And I'd be interested to see now what happens in the next kind of couple of months, whether there'll be more of these. Because did you notice in the last couple of years there was hardly any of these kind of attacks at all? Maybe the whole COVID thing shut that down a bit, but you would think a terrorist, if he really wants to commit terror, would be able to do something even in the last couple of years. So
Yeah,
uh, yeah, so I'd be interested to see, and I think particularly in France, because in a couple of months' time, you got the Rugby World Cup starting there in September, and you're going to have thousands of fans from all over the world arriving there. And will it be you need a digital ID or a QR code to get into the stadium, to get on trains or buses, into bars and restaurants and whatever? That could be the perfect excuse for it. So so yeah, it all comes back to that problem reaction solution thing. And so if this did indeed happen, well, they're taking advantage out of this situation, and they'll say, yeah, okay, well, we need to bring this in for everybody. And if there's more of these attacks, people will go, yeah, bring it in. If this is what needs to be done to track these dastardly terrorists or these migrants who are doing this, so be it. We'll just suck it up. That's what I'm afraid of. They're going to have to do something like that, I think, to bring it in, because I think generally most people don't like the idea of a digital ID. Not even an ID card is not really accepted, particularly here, like in Ireland or the UK. They tried to bring this in before, and people said, "No way, we're not doing that." We got enough ID as it is. We don't need another card, a biometric thing or whatever. They tried to bring that in here a couple of years ago, and it flopped miserably. So digital ID would be the way, obviously, to get everyone on this tracking system, and we got you all, and All they need is a really good excuse. And yeah, let's throw in a few of these attacks, these so-called terror attacks, whether they're real or not. But you know, I think we could see a few more of them. You know, because you remember in the States there, I think it was really before Trump, and even before when Trump was in power, but there was no school shootings very much or anything like that. But I remember under Obama, like every week there was a school shooting or something, you know. And I think, well, they just kicked that all off again. That's what I'm saying. And then, yeah, here we go. Here's your digital ID, and we'll keep you safe. And but we're going to track you every move you make, you know. So that's what I think.
People seem to, obviously not everyone, but a large section of the population seem to love the novelty of these things. So, for example, during the scamdemic, you had, I saw it with my own eyes from outside the establishments because I wasn't allowed in to sit down. You'd see them sitting down at a table and they would take out their phone, and especially the women, they loved flashing their QR code. I'm a nice person, I'm a clean person, I'm a compliant person. Actually, tomorrow I have an essay coming out on Substack that deals with this idea. That you had these people who jumped through all the hoops in order to get a pat on the back, and they loved it. And after a few months, people like me were sitting at tables the same as they were. They didn't really get anything after all. They did. But yeah, at the start, you could see they were delighted to, it kind of makes them feel educated that they're using the latest technology. And because they're able to use this technology, they can sit at a table, even though you don't, we know that you don't need technology to be able to sit, at a table in a pub. You see, I saw a video, it must be a couple of months ago now. It was in Africa, somewhere in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. And the government had set up some sort of, digital ID system. And you flashed, your code or whatever, your QR code, your phone maybe. It was like, the village pump for pumping the water. And you could see all these African women, they'd come with their buckets and they had their phones or whatever. They had whatever they needed, whatever technology they needed to operate this water pump.
Yeah. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and every time they scanned it or whatever, and then the water started coming out. They were laughing and dancing and delighted. So there is a childish thing about it, like the way children like turning things on, electronic things on, seeing how things operate in general. This type, children have this curiosity, especially very young children, flashing lights and all that. So. As we've become dumbed down over the last century or whatever, especially, there is a large section of the population that loves the idea of using the latest app, the latest smartphone, to do their shopping, to do everything really, and they feel progressive, and they feel that they're a bit better than people like us who walk around with coins in our pockets.
Yeah. I'm very much a cash only type person. Unless it's a big purchase maybe, and I wouldn't have a lot of cash on me, but I try and pay in cash as much as I can. But I do notice these people in the shops, kind of, that'll be 35 whatever, and they take out their phone and they're like, well, yeah, and beep, thank you very much. And they look kind of, wow, that's so cool, And I agree with you. There's a lot of that. And as you said, during the scamdemic, when the pubs and restaurants started opening again, and you needed a kind of a QR code to kind of get in, it was like, well, we got a bit of freedom here now, but we just need this QR code to get in. So, but I'll put up with that, And that's what I'm saying. It won't take much, I think, to push people in that direction. But I do believe, though, that more and more people kind of have woken up to this, and I don't think it'll be as easy as they think. I mean, have you seen that thing? There was an Aldi there in London. Did you see that one? where you
I
walk
did,
in,
yeah, yeah.
you
Uh,
walk in, and you have to scan your QR code to actually get into the supermarket to buy your shopping. You know what I mean? Crazy stuff. And a big backlash over that, and I'm not sure how Aldi have taken that now, but I'm sure they've kind of seen it and kind of gone, right, maybe we kind of pull back because at the end of the day, they want customers, and it's all about the shekels, and they don't want to lose customers. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. It's going to be interesting, I have to say. But I really don't think if all these supermarkets bring this in, there's going to be a bigger backlash because a lot of elderly people don't have phones. They don't know how to use QR codes or stuff like that. I myself, I just got one of these old phones, from 2012, which I just use for phone calls and texts, and that's it. So, and it would be a form of discrimination in many ways because, I just want to go in and buy me food and shopping, and you're stopping me from doing it. It would be a form of discrimination, I think. So, yeah, it'd be a tricky one for them to push this, But there are enough dumb idiots out there, sadly, who would go for it, yeah.
it goes back to that village in Africa, where they're using technology to access water. The idea is that if they don't have the technology, or if they decide that they don't want the technology, then they don't have access to water. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And there was something. I wanted to ask you as well about the airline industry and travel, because it's something I floated in this essay. I get the feeling that the whole idea of getting on a plane, and for people like us,
Yeah.
I get the feeling it's on borrowed time, and I get during the scamdemic, for example, I couldn't for a couple of years actually. I couldn't get on a plane because one,
Yeah.
I wasn't vaccinated, and when it was a case that you didn't need to be vaccinated, you do a PCR test. I wasn't going to do a PCR test, so in my case, I couldn't travel. Now people say, well, you could travel. It's just you're too ignorant.
Yeah.
You're too ignorant to get the vaccine that's good for you, and you're too ignorant, to let someone shove something up into your brainstem. You're just too ignorant. Yeah, you could actually, fly tomorrow if you wanted. The thing is, you don't want it. But the thing is, I don't want to be a guinea pig.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm not going to fly. So for a couple of years, I didn't fly anywhere. And there were a lot of people, I think, in the same boat who just didn't fly. They said, I'm not going to jump through the hoops. Screw it. I'll wait.
Yeah.
And with the narrative, and it's been pumped up lately about, and if you do buy an airline ticket now, your ticket is mostly about carbon credits and carbon, kilograms of carbon for your flight. Do you want to donate? Yeah. Do you want to donate some extra money? Do you want to pay a bit extra for your ticket so you'll feel good? You'll feel good that you're helping the environment.
I know.
So when I see all this over a simple ticket, and even a bus ticket now has the same,
Really?
I say to myself, right, they don't want people like us traveling.
Yeah.
They don't want us traveling, but it's going to take them time to disassemble the airline industry, because the billionaires in the airline industry, they'll need time to be able to reinvest their money elsewhere. So what do you think of that? The airline industry, do you think it's on borrowed time? Like, I mean, commercial flights.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about private jets.
Well, yeah, it could. I mean, it looks like it. I mean, with this sustainable development goals, they're looking at closing a lot of airports across the world, and I think, it's going to become more and more difficult to kind of travel, but that's the whole thing, isn't it? To keep us all locked up and in our own country. Now, you remember, like years and years ago, most people couldn't afford to travel anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But it's nice to have that choice where you can just say, I'm going to head off to Spain or Greece or something for a couple of weeks and just do it. Back in the old days, if you wanted to book a ticket, you go down to a travel agent and pay cash, and you get an old ticket there. little stub thing, you know, and you go to the airport and in you go and off you go, you know. But now, as you said, it's like it's all online, and it's carbon credit stuff. I saw Ryanair doing something like that as well, you know, which I found surprising because Michael O'Leary, the owner of Ryanair, like he's quite vocal about the whole climate change thing. He doesn't agree with it, but I don't wonder if he's just playing an act, you know, if he's just, because he goes to the Bilderberg meetings every year, this guy, you know, so I'm sure he's just playing his bit, you know, to say, well, I'm against this, but in the meantime, though, he's doing this carbon credit stuff when you're buying an airline ticket, you know. So yeah, I think that's what they'll do, and probably what will happen is that you'll see airfares increase quite a bit as well, so people won't be able to afford it, or they'll cut back on flights, so there'll be only so many flights going to a certain place at a certain time, and you're going to have to get in line to get on a flight to go somewhere, you know. So if you want to book a holiday somewhere, you might have to book 6 months in advance to get a flight, you know. So yeah, I can see that happening, you know. And going back to that village in Africa, you're talking about, like getting the water. Again, this goes back to the Sustainable Development Goals. They say that you got easy access to water, but they don't say you have to pay for it and that you have to scan a QR code to get it. They don't say that. But hey, yeah, we're giving you access to water, but here's your terms and conditions, you know. So that's what it's all about. They're giving you a choice, okay? So we always got freedom of choice. If you want to go on holiday, oh, absolutely fine, but you've got to do this, and this, right, before we let you on the plane. And you know, when you think about it, after 9/11 in particular, I noticed that going to an airport, you know, became a very challenging, I have to say. I mean, I used to look forward to going off somewhere, you know, going to the airport, going on a flight somewhere, and looking forward to it, you know, the whole travel experience. And you never know who you might meet on the plane, you know, you might start a good chat with someone. Nowadays, I don't know if I really enjoy it, you know. Nowadays, I just want to go, I just want to get to where I'm going and not have to put up with all that, you know, going through freaking x-rays and having been searched, or these body scanners that they have now, you know. I don't want to do that, you know. So, but you know, this is what they say, you can go on holidays. Oh yeah, absolutely, be off you go, have a great time, but we got to do this. And will people do it? I think they will. Well, I think most people will. I just hope that, you know, what we've seen over the last few years, that people have kind of woken up a bit. They'll kind of see through this a bit and kind of go, nah, we're not doing this, you know. So maybe they might have to pull back, because again, at the end of the day, these are businesses and they do need customers. So you know, there's that thing about, you know, how do we balance this, you know. But then again, I'm wondering, like, when I'm looking at this this whole woke nonsense that's going on at the moment, we see a lot of like the Bud Light in America and Target and that. They're getting a huge amount of money from these through the government, you know, to push this LGBT stuff out there, right? And they're obviously taking it, right? But even if, for example, that there's a backlash, they don't seem to care too much. Have you noticed that? And I think that's quite concerning, that these businesses don't seem to really care whether they lose money or not, you know?
It's almost as if they're playing around with monopoly money.
Yeah.
And we're the only ones who believe that it's real.
Mm.
And they know it's not real. But yeah, I've noticed, you know, they're going for a narrative. I heard that the Little Mermaid remake or whatever, they used, you know, the traditional character is a white European woman with flaming red hair, and seemingly they've used a woman of color or whatever.
Yeah.
And it flopped in China, you know. The Chinese just, you know, they weren't going to buy it. It's like, you know, if we watched a Bruce Lee film or Jackie Chan,
Yeah.
and you know the main character is black, for example, and his name is Wong something.
Yeah.
You know, we're probably going to say, yeah, this is a lot of bollocks, and
Yeah.
the Chinese didn't take the Little Mermaid, and it's as if, you know, as you said with Bud Light, they know they're going to lose money, but it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about a certain narrative and pushing
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. It's an agenda, and it's like the company's been paid to push the agenda no matter what. You know, we'll cover any losses that you might incur, you know, if people kind of boycott your business or whatever, because I think they're kind of aware that that will happen, that there'll be a lot of people will boycott them. So they're going to lose quite a bit of revenue there. So it says, we'll cover those costs, lads. You just keep doing it, you know. But I think in the long run, though, you know, again, business is business, and I can't see them, you know, well, then what's the point of being in business if you're just going to accept this kind of monopoly money thrown at you just to keep your stores open and push LGBT bullshit, you know? It doesn't make sense to me. So I can see maybe that kind of backfiring a bit, you know? But I think they will try it. They will push it a bit. And I think you're going to see a lot more of it. Though in saying that, you know, this so-called Pride Month, you know, I've hardly seen any of stuff. I mean, last year was more visible, but this year there's not much of it around at all, which is nice to see.
Absolutely. You know? It's an astroturfed thing. Like, it's not like it organically came about.
Yeah.
You know, this, as you know, for example, back, I think homosexuality was decriminalized in 1993 in Ireland. And, you know, how does it happen that it goes from that in just a few decades to a whole month celebrating sodomy, you know, and whatever else, you know, whatever else. So it's, yeah, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have even known it was Pride Month, except for, you know, the people on the alt-right on Twitter sending lots of tweets about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it. Where I am, I haven't seen. Only maybe yesterday, actually, I went into a supermarket and I saw they had pink balloons. But I was thinking, hopefully, that's something else. You know, hopefully, you know, it means they're opening a new store. You know, that won't have any, you know, scanning machines. There's a message here from LMCW, Useless Eater, and he's mentioning. We already mentioned it. LCMCW. He says, I see Aldi. Some stores in the UK, you need an app on the phone to get in through the gates. Yeah, so we've already gone into that, but yeah, it's as Brizer said, they tried it out. From what you've heard, Brizer, they've stopped doing it, have they?
Well, I don't know what's you know, because there was a big thing trending on Twitter, like boycott Aldi, you know, and I'm sure Twitter, the marketing people picked up on that. Whether they've done anything about it or not, I don't know. But I think it's just one store in London, so they just trialed it. I think, and just test it out, test the water, see what happens, you know. And I think there was a bit of pushback, so I think they might pull back on that a little bit. They might keep that store on going just for a bit, just to see will more and more people just accept it as time goes on, you know.
It's kind of like those self-check-in tills, like.
Yeah.
I remember
exactly.
they you know, obviously they still have them in some supermarkets, but they weren't a success at all. Like where I am in the supermarkets, most of the tills are, you know, there's someone behind the cash register. There's a person who scans your items. And, you know, 10 years ago, I would have expected maybe just to have one person and then to have loads of machines, but that hasn't happened. The people have voted themselves.
They have, yeah. I see that here too. Most people like to have their stuff checked out, you know, and I think they like when they go up to the till to chat with the person who's at the till, you know. How are you today, love? Are you well? And all that, you know. It's just a little bit of banter, but you can't do that to a machine, can you? So it's all very impersonal. It's like beep, beep, scan your items now, you know. And I know I can't do that, you know. Now, yeah, it's very convenient if you want to get in and out there fast, but no, I'll just take that extra few minutes to get in line and pay for my stuff and maybe say hello to the nice looking girl behind the counter. I think it's just
and accidentally drop your receipt with your phone number on it.
Exactly.
As you walk off like John Wayne into the sun. Yeah. I was going to say to you, Brizer, we'll mention, while we're here, we'll mention climate change. I know we've spoken about this topic a number of times, but there are people that are awake to a lot of things, but they hold dearly to their heart climate change. And, they've, I guess there are people in their 20s, maybe some of them in their 30s, and they've kind of come out of the tail end of the propaganda in school. And, obviously we all got this propaganda to some extent. In my time, it was the ozone layer and acid rain. Now it's climate change. How would you convince people? Like, I have my own ideas here, but how would you convince people that the whole thing is a scam?
I don't think really need to convince people too much. Most people can see through it, how ridiculous the whole thing is, I mean, I went out in a local pub there the other night, and, it was quiet enough, but there was about 5 or 6 lads in there, right? And like I'm living in the middle of Ireland, right in the bog country, right? So turf is a big thing here, and all the people, like, they have their little plot of in the bog, where they dig their turf and all the rest of it, and they're not buying it. And they, a lot of these guys were farmers as well, and they're not going to get rid of their cattle to offset the climate targets, but they're just not going to do it. And it was very refreshing to hear, 5 or 6 lads, kind of my age, some a bit younger, a couple of older lads, and they're all like sitting there, oh, jeez, no, there's no fucking way we're going to go along with this, like, and I think that's great, I was very pleased to see that, and not only that, they're awake to the whole migrant crisis as well. They said, oh, jeez, we can't, there's too much of them coming, we can't do it, So I feel that there's a shift happening here, and where this will all go, I mean, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, but I think there's something has moved in the right direction now at long last, because it's been taken. This has been going on now for so long. We were thinking, oh my God, we're doomed, Captain Mannering. We're doomed. That's what I was thinking, and now it's turned around, and people are questioning this stuff and not going along with it. And there was a poll there here in Ireland about the Green Party. Nobody wants them in power. Like, they don't. They're the most unpopular party in Ireland by a long chalk, even more than the lefties. They hate them. People hate the Green Party here, so they're in deep trouble, and no one's buying it. People like to get into their cars and drive. The farmers want to farm the land. They have to do what they have to do. No one's going to give up their cows, kill their cows, like, just for the freaking weather, for frick's sake. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, and no one's going to stop digging the turf out of the bog, because they need to heat their homes. They've been doing it for freaking centuries. We're not going to stop now. So I think it's great. And let's see let's see what happens here. So I think there's reason for optimism, I think. I really do. I can feel it, Now, yeah, maybe the government or whoever, or the World Economic Forum, whoever, have a big plan, because maybe they could foresee this, that there would be kind of pushback, and they have a plan B. But I don't know. I don't know what plan B they could have, to be quite honest, because people are seeing through the bullshit now. And so it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, I think it's still going to get very tricky, though. I think they're going to they're going to pull out all the stops here and double down and really test people to the absolute limit, But I think there's a resolve in the human spirit that just says, nah, enough of this shit, We're done. So, yeah, let's see.
It's mostly the young people who because
Yeah,
they'll
I
learn
don't
about it
even
all the
young
time in
people. I
school.
mean, even young people I spoke to as well are not buying into it either. I mean, yes, some of them are. You can see the idiots, right? You can see the idiots, right? But there's a lot of sensible people out there too, even young folks as well, who are not going along. They know they have no real future themselves in this present situation, and if this whole green agenda is pushed, they have absolutely no future. And a lot of them are very internet savvy. They're online. They're looking at stuff, right? Because there's loads of stuff. That's why the government are so crazy now about censoring the internet and you used to have to look at Facebook and Twitter. Well, Twitter's not so bad now, but all these social media platforms, the censorship was unreal. So they're really they're kind of worried about that the proper information is getting out there, and people are making up their own minds about what's going on in the world. And yeah,
You probably recall, I think it was last year, that the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern,
mm-hmm.
she said, we are the truth. Don't listen to anyone else. Only listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
We're the truth. And I, my impression was when they have to be that candid about it, it means that they feel threatened.
Yeah.
They feel that, they feel like they're losing their grip. So yeah, but at the same time, I've met so many people and they do believe in it, and it's a religion for them. I usually say to them, okay, right, you're saying we have to fight climate change, and then I'd say, how do we do it? And they'll say things like, we have to get rid of, stop people eating meat. And I'll say, right, and what climate do you want? Like, what would be the perfect temperature, throughout the year, in summer or winter? What are we going for here? What's the yardstick? And they become a bit flustered. And I'd say, well, surely, there must have been a perfect climate at some stage. Surely we can try and reach that perfect climate. And then they feel really stupid and they just walk off angrily. But it's a shakedown. It's a way for the rich to get more money out of the poor people. Hence, the royal family are embroiled in it. King Charles now, he's big into it. It seems it's mostly very, very rich people and celebrities who are into it. Everyone else,
exactly.
They don't really have much to gain by it. In fact, they have everything to lose by it.
And then also, like when you see at these climate change conferences, like these guys flying in on their private jets and driving in their limos to a big swanky hotel, staying there for a week and eating the best of, steak or whatever, people are kind of going, hold on a minute now. You're not really practicing what you preach here, So, but yeah, I think, from what I see here, the most people who would buy into the climate change are that middle class type, the Dublin 4 kind of Southside Dublin crowd, who like talking about this, virtue signaling basically, but don't really do it themselves anyway. But it's just like talking about, oh yeah, well, we have to do something about climate change, and we have to stop these migrants, it's our duty, Sure, didn't the Irish go abroad all over the world, this type of bollocks basically. But they don't do it themselves, they're hypocrites, these people, So, and I think more and more people are kind of latching onto this and kind of going, yeah, enough of this nonsense now. And I think this whole LGBT stuff, this tranny stuff and all that, I think it's a crazy, mad phase in human history. We'll look back on this in 20, 30 years and go, oh, Jesus, what did we do? What were we up to? You know what I mean? So
I think that's starting, actually.
Yeah.
The worm is turning. People are starting to like, I see it in Twitter a lot, and I despise seeing it. I hate when people put it up. It's the truth, I know. They're posting photos that show what a clown world it is, but I really don't like seeing it. And I'm sure you've seen a Brizer.
Yeah.
It's a photo of a teenage girl or whatever. It's her forearm, and more or less, it's just a bone really. All the flesh has been taken away. Like there's a big piece of her forearm missing.
Yeah.
So it's a cult. It's mutilation,
Yeah.
and in any respectable civilization, you don't want that to be prevalent. You don't
No.
want it. And as you say, when people do look back, and they're beginning to look back now, there are even people, they're still young adults, and their lives are ruined now.
Yeah.
They decided it was the cool thing to do, it was the hip thing to do,
Yeah.
change your gender, and now
But there's no going back,
right.
though. That's the thing.
Oh
There's
no, that's it. You're screwed,
So, and I've seen pictures like of young girls who had their boobs gone, like, and these stitches, horrible stitches across them, and celebrating this. Like, you've just mutilated yourself and you're celebrating it. I mean, what the hell are you doing? So there is a degree of insanity has crept into this world somehow. But now people, I think, are beginning to realize and going, oh, geez, we pushed this a bit too far, lads, got to stop this now. And there's a big movement here. There's a woman here in Ireland. She's actually an American woman. She set up a group, about protecting children from this and all this stuff being taught in schools and that. And she's getting great traction. She's on a lot of mainstream media now. People say, well, she's on mainstream, so she must be a shill. But I don't think so. I think she's on the ball. Her points are very well made. And you cannot disagree with her. Anyone with a rational, reasonable mind could not disagree with what this woman says. And I listened to her. She was on the Niall Boylan show. You know who Niall Boylan is? He's mainstream, okay? But he does push the envelope a bit, and which is good to see. I mean, I think that's needed. Now, yeah, he won't go too far, but he'll bring out certain things, a bit like GB News, in the UK, where they bring up these topics. I think that's kind of needed. It's healthy because a lot of people watch mainstream, so when they come across the likes of GB News or Niall Boylan or whatever, and listen to it, and they kind of go, oh yeah, this doesn't really make too much sense, does it? And then that will get them to maybe look into things a bit more and see that there's a much bigger, sinister agenda behind all of this, and then go, right, no, I'm not having any of this,
Yeah. They're kind of gateway drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll go that bit further down the rabbit hole. So,
yeah.
Brizer, we'll touch on the final subject, and it only takes a few minutes. We've spoken about it before. I've noticed, so back around 2009, when I'd be out having a few pints or whatever, and I get talking to people, I'd bring up the idea of chemtrails, and of course I'd be laughed out of it. But I've seen now on social media, Twitter, that's really the only social media I'm on, but I've seen a serious amount of tweets in the last 2-3 months of seemingly ordinary people in Ireland and England sending photos, uploading photos of the sky when they got up, and then half an hour later, these photos, and they're saying this is like 5 days out of 7 or 6 days out of 7. So it's evident because people say, oh, it's contrails, they're just commercial flights, whatever. But there could be a day during the week when you don't have any.
Yeah.
And the airport hasn't closed down; it's still operating. So this is obviously a concerted effort by government or some globalist entity. It's kind of official. It's official in a way because in Spain, for example, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I think it was in Valencia, the local council or whatever, they posted an article about it, admitting that they're trying to manipulate the weather, cloud seeding, whatever. So
Mhm.
What do you make of this? Like people are, I'm just surprised it took them so long to start looking up at the sky and
Yeah.
asking very simple questions.
Yeah, I've been looking at the chemtrail stuff for years, and it's only again when I became aware of it, I'd say about 10, 12 years ago, I suppose. There were a few people out there talking about it. And sure enough, I looked up and I could see these streaks of, across the sky. And that it just did not look natural at all, you know. And then, it would develop into a kind of a haze and a bigger clouds. And then you'd see some strange looking clouds in the sky and all this type of stuff. And then, I think it has affected the weather in some way. And I think it's definitely a geoengineering to kind of give the impression of climate change. They really want to push the climate change agenda. That's what this is about, I think. Now, other people are saying, well, are they pumping this aluminium and barium and strontium or whatever into the air to poison us? That could be a factor too, but nobody's really dropping dead because of that. But then again, are people getting cancers because of this or other illnesses? I don't know. It's very hard to prove that, but I definitely think it's geoengineering. And I don't know if you've noticed yourself, because people have said it to me. Have you ever noticed about the sun? The sun used to be yellow. If you look at the sun now, it's like it's white. It's like it's a big white lamp shining down at you. And you can't look up at the sun too long, obviously. But I have looked up and it is white. It's not orange the way it kind of used to be. Have you noticed that?
I have noticed it, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know, like my eyesight has deteriorated a lot in the last
yeah,
10 or 12 years, but I can say that, in my youthful days, I do remember it was yellow, and
yeah,
now it does seem white, very, very white. And I
yeah,
noticed that when they're spraying, it's almost always where the sun is, and
yeah,
everything then becomes like the sky. Everything, I think that makes the sun look even whiter when
yeah.
they're spraying in front of it.
Yeah,
And
so when you hear the likes of Bill Gates saying that they want to block out the sun, and that's a crazy conspiracy theory, but I think there's something to do with that, because again, it will affect health, because the main source of vitamin D for everybody is sunshine. It is the main source. Forget about your supplements. If you want vitamin D, get out and sit in the sun for an hour, and you'll get a load of it, and it's great for your health. So I think there's that side. But then I think also they want to put all this shit up into the air to give the impression or the illusion that the climate is changing. And I think it is affecting the climate, because we're seeing we are seeing strange patterns in the weather. I mean, I think the weather is we are going through a period of what you call climate change, because the climate changes all the time anyway. And I think we're going into a cooling period now. The grand solar minimum, I think, that where the sun kind of isn't as active as it normally is, which happens every 300 years, I think. And we're now entering into that period again. And so I think these boys know that. So they're saying, well, we're going to try and manipulate the weather more to give the impression that the world is doomed unless we do something about climate. But then what are their solutions to this? Well, tax people. Yeah, carbon tax. We'll tax you for breathing, basically. Or we'll shut down all the farms, I mean, if people need to realize that carbon dioxide is absolutely essential for life. We need it. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. The plants and the trees and everything breathe back in the carbon dioxide, and they give us back oxygen. It's a symbiotic relationship. If you take CO2 out of the equation, everything dies. And I think that's basics. I learned that when I was 9 or 10 years old in school, for Christ's sake, So why are these top so-called scientists out there, climate experts, can't even see that, is beyond me. But I think that's why this chemtrail stuff, and I mean, God knows how much that must be costing to do that, to put all these planes up and pumping out all those chemicals or whatever it is into the air. to do this. I mean, these people, they have to be psychopaths. I mean, I can't, there's no other word I can really give them. I mean, why would you want to destroy the very place where you live? Why would you want to do that? You know? And
They've
people
really
say,
hyped it up, though. They've
huh?
really hyped it up because,
Yeah,
10 years ago, you'd see one plane. Now you can see 4 or 5 of them sometimes doing
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And, 2 of them are actually flying right beside each other. And I'm sure that's not supposed to happen. Air traffic control, they try to avoid, planes flying
yeah.
almost wing to wing. So, I got up this morning. I said it here before we came on, and
Hmm.
I felt I was in the Truman Show. The sky had been sprayed. You could see just a blanket,
Hmm.
but you could see how there were still streaks where it was all artificial. And mentally, it's a horrible feeling when you get up in the morning and you look up at the sky,
Yeah.
and the sky itself has been manipulated by
Hmm.
man. It's
Yeah. I know.
it's
Yeah.
a horrible feeling. A horrible
It's
feeling,
terrible
my friend.
because nature should do its own thing. Man has no business interfering with nature. Nature is its own thing. As you say, sometimes it could be a beautiful sunny day and you're in great form, and then you look up and you see this horrible streak going across the sky, and you go, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
It ruins your day right there. So is that another thing? Just to upset people who know what's going on. They look up and see this, and now they're miserable for the rest of the day because they saw this. One little thing.
absolutely.
It's psychological warfare, really, but also um, pumping these chemicals into the air. I'm sure it's not good for us at all. And then, yeah, it is kind of affecting the weather. I know a lot of the farmers here are giving out because it was a long winter here. It was not a cold winter by any means, but it was long. It was right into May, the winter went into, you know what I mean? And generally here, winter goes maybe end of March, April. Even March can be a really nice month. But this year it went right into the middle of May, end of May, but you don't see too much of. And then in June, suddenly we've got summer and it's like hot. And people are like welcoming it on at long last. So, yeah, so there's a combination of things. As I said, it's geoengineering. There's companies out there. You can go online who actually do this. They do cloud seeding. You can go and look it up. There's companies who actually do this type of stuff. Some of them do it for benevolent reasons. I know there's an Australian company that do it, and where they, for example, go to places in Africa where they can bring clouds in from the ocean and make it rain in the desert, and you could say that's a good thing. But then again, it's interfering with nature, isn't it? Nature will do its own thing. Man doesn't need to interfere with nature at all. Nature will just do its own thing, and people will generally adapt to it.
Thing is, you don't know. Like, let's say you're controlling a certain area. You don't know the effects that'll have on other areas around the world.
Mhm.
There's cause and effect. I have a question here for you, Brizer. I'll
Yeah.
avoid it because I know nothing about political parties and all that, but it's up on the screen. It's from LMCW Useless Eater. He said, "Are the Shinners going to be as bad as Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, the Greens when they get into Dáil Éireann?"
Yes. Though, in saying that, I think there's quite a few members of Sinn Féin who are beginning to kind of wake up. There was a councillor in my town who was a Sinn Féin guy. Okay, I've talked to him. He's actually a very nice guy, and he is wide awake to the migrant crisis. He's totally against it. Okay, and he's also sees what's happening with the farmers and all that kind of stuff, the climate change stuff. And he's on board, and people say, "Oh, well, he's a shill, he's just playing along." But if you actually sit down and talk to the man, which I have done, I think the guy is totally genuine. And he is a nationalist, but he's left. He's lefty, right? He's a lefty, but he believes Ireland is for the Irish, right? Which was the whole thing about Sinn Féin in the first place when they set up back in 1919. But the Sinn Féin party, and I think he's disillusioned with Sinn Féin. He could probably leave it, I'd say. He might leave it. I think he's under a lot of pressure because he has been reported in the media and in the local media here, for speaking out against this. And people are going, oh, look at this, racist. Sinn Féin are now racist. Oh, my God, So I'm sure Mary Lou McDonald would be pulling them maybe to one side and going, but I think he is actually the type of guy who would say, right, I'm going to leave the party then, But Sinn Féin, yeah, they sold out a long time ago, I think. I was always sympathetic to their cause back in the day, the Troubles in Ireland, but then, as I was, as time went on, I could see that they were a very, very left-wing party and very internationalist in their view, which was not their kind of remit anyway. I mean, Sinn Féin means ourselves alone. That's what it means, ourselves alone. I like that title. I mean, Ireland is our country, ourselves alone in this country, right? I like the sound of that. And they're moving totally away from that. There was another Sinn Féin TD there, Owen O'Brien was his name, and he can't define a woman. He was asked to define a woman, and he couldn't. I'm sure he could, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't do it. I mean, how could you vote for somebody like that who cannot even define what a woman is? Jesus, the mind boggles. But yeah, I think. Yeah, I think Sinn Féin, I don't know if they'll even get in. I don't even know what's going to happen in the next election, to be quite honest, because there's nobody really out there. Yeah, okay, you've got the National Party out there and the Irish Freedom Party. They'll probably get in. I think they will do kind of well, actually, I think, in the next election. But I don't think they'll do enough to change anything, if you know what I mean. And I've looked at their kind of manifestos and stuff, and yeah, they do have good things to say, but they're not looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking at the whole how economics works. How do you deal with the civil service, for example? I mean, we've got a huge civil service in this country. It's bloated. I think I looked at it, I think it's nearly 40% of working people in Ireland either work for the government, as in civil service, or government state agencies, right? That's a huge amount of people who are working. And that has to stop, because these are people who are producing nothing but red tape, right? For the most part. Okay, you can maybe exclude nurses and doctors and people like that, right? But for the most part, they produce absolutely nothing. And they get very well paid for it. That has to stop. That's a gravy train. And I don't know. I'm not sure if the National Party or the Irish Freedom Party would be able to deal with that. I think it has to kind of collapse, I think, on its own weight, and we start again. I think that's where we're at. And that's going to be very difficult for a lot of people, But I don't think it'll take too long. I think 2 or 3 years of hardship, and then I think we will build back better, not them. That's the way I hope it'll work out. That yes, this will implode on itself, and we, the people, will build it back better, and we will do our own reset, and not their reset. So
that's it. I recommend people get out there at election time and vote for the Brizer party. That's the party you've got to vote for. The Brizer party. 3 pints of stout with every vote. So there you go.
I'm actually looking at deregistering myself from the voting, because I feel that once you're registered, I think you're participating in the bullshit,
Right, so you're completely disillusioned with the system then?
Yeah, I'm totally. Yeah, it's gone. It's broken. It's like a mirror that's fallen from the wall and smashed into 1,000 pieces, and you're trying to piece it back together again. It's a broken mirror. You cannot fix it. It's gone. It's corrupt to the core. So it needs to come down. Whether that will happen organically or not, that remains to be seen. But yeah, it's going to be interesting in this country, and I think in most Western countries, because I think most people are disillusioned with their politicians now. I mean, they know that they're all crooks and gangsters, every one of them. You know, there's no opposition anymore. But we used to have that. We used to have a government, and you'd have an opposition who would call them out on certain things. That's gone now. And we saw it, like over the last 3 years, we saw it completely. Like everyone is sold out. So you cannot trust these people anymore. You can't. They've broken the trust with the people. So no, that's why I'm saying I'm just withdrawing my consent completely, and hope that this whole shit show will come down and we can start again, and we'll do it right this time.
Brizer, thanks very much for coming on. I recommend people listening to this. You'll find Brizer. I've put his Twitter handle in the description. If you're watching this on Odyssey or BitChute, links to Brizer's social media will be in it. And hit the like, share this video around, and all that. So, Brizer, thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Good to talk to you, man. And we'll do another one again. You know, there's so much to talk about these days. You know, and as I say, there's reason to be optimistic, but we got to be ready for turbulent times. We just have to steer the boat through these stormy waters. But I think we'll get to the other side.